Hello, and welcome to my lesson on social emotional learning for high school students. To get more videos about education that relates to high school students, I would like to ask you to subscribe to my channel, which is free of charge, and I promise that you will not receive any email notifications. So, social emotional learning. What is social emotional learning? Social emotional learning is any form of learning in which learners use acquired knowledge to develop a positive way of thinking and behaving. Also, to develop healthy personalities, to learn how to control their emotions, form healthy relationships, to express empathy towards others, and to become productive members of the society. Also, keep in mind that social emotional learning is any form of learning that teaches us to control negative emotions and to deal with our negative emotions. As a teacher, you have probably heard this saying, it takes a village to raise a child. So it does to teach social emotional learning. Successful social emotional learning strongly depends on several different social factors, and that includes family and community, school-wide practices, policies, and curriculum and instructions. So, teacher alone cannot teach social emotional learning without the help of parents and other professionals, as well as other members in the community. One way to understand social emotional learning is by dividing it into 5 different domains. First domain is self-awareness domain that's concerned with how well you understand and know yourself. The second domain, self-management, is concerned with how well you can manage your life. Third domain, responsible decision-making domain, is concerned with how well you can make beneficial decisions. Relationship skills domain is concerned with how you relate to your friends. And fifth domain, social awareness domain, is concerned with how well you understand people around you and how well you understand society. Now, as a teacher, I'll say high school teacher, keep in mind that a specific topic needs to be explained differently to different age groups of students and from different perspectives. For example, first grade teacher will teach social emotional learning differently than high school psychology teacher. In my case, I'm a high school psychology teacher, and I work mostly with high school seniors and a small percentage of high school juniors who will continue education at the college level. So I'll go ahead and make this presentation based on teaching us social emotional learning to high school seniors and juniors. However, you can apply the same methods to freshmen and sophomores. First of all, the first domain in social emotional learning is self-awareness domain. Self-awareness is one's ability to understand its emotions, interests, and abilities. Students, especially juniors and seniors, struggle with something that we call identity confusion and may be confused about their next step in life. Therefore, students may be under a lot of pressure to pursue something they do not like or something they are not talented for. In addition, students may pursue something they're not familiar with and realize that later in life. For example, like this gentleman here on this picture. He is struggling with his identity and the future profession and what to do after high school. He might say, hey, maybe I should go into nursing. But what he doesn't realize at this age or this stage of life, that he actually doesn't like nursing. And if he chooses nursing, he will definitely end up changing the major. Also, students may like a certain major, like this gentleman here, again, he's saying that he likes history, but his parents want him to be an engineer. So yes, high school students, especially juniors and seniors, may be under a lot of pressure to choose something that they don't like, or they may not be aware of their true potential. So they may end up taking wrong major. Now, this is again what we call identity confusion. Identity confusion was first identified by German psychologist Erik Erikson. who presented his theory on socio-psychological development or personality development. According to Erik Erikson, we develop through 8 different stages. One stage of life that affects adolescence starts at the age of 12 and continues until the age of 18. Now, according to Erik Erikson, at each stage, we have one particular conflict that we need to solve in order to successfully transition to the next stage. If we fail to solve this conflict, then we might face with certain crisis or a problem. So adolescents, age group 12 to 18, is struggling with identity versus role confusion. So they are trying to form social relationships and identity. The question that they are trying to answer is, who am I and where am I going? So teenagers need to develop a sense of self and personal identity. Success leads to an ability to stay true to yourself, while failure leads to role confusion and a weak sense of self. Now, as a teacher, keep in mind that you can greatly help students to understand and become aware of identity confusion. First, the effects of identity confusion can be greatly minimized if students understand that they are affected by this condition, and if they are aware of their professional interests and skills. So do not be afraid to tell the students that they face with identity confusion at that stage of life, and that they might feel anxiety or depression about their next step. That is perfectly normal for the people their age. However, if they feel the same way when they're 30 or even 40, then we might have a problem. Another step in helping students to deal with identity confusion is by teaching students about multiple intelligence theory, as defined by Howard Gardner. Trust me, this can be of great help. Howard Gardner is a Harvard psychology professor who argued that intelligence can be divided into 8 different fields, and that we all possess certain type of intelligence to a certain degree. For example, Gardner stated that there is such an intelligence called kinesthetic intelligence. People with kinesthetic intelligence excel in performing sports, physical activities, and body movements. So people with kinesthetic intelligence are very good at acting, playing sports. So if you would like to be, or if you are planning on becoming a professional athlete or a gym teacher or dancer, then you must possess kinesthetic intelligence. Linguistic intelligence, for example, another type of intelligence recognized by Howard Gardner, is seen among people who excel in words, who are good with words, languages, speaking, and writing, such as poets, writers, journalists, English teachers. So why I'm saying this is by presenting and teaching multiple intelligence theory to students can greatly help them recognize their skills and their potential and the field in which that they're good at. For example, if a student likes to play musical instruments, and if he or she is good at playing musical instruments and loves to listen to music, then most likely this student has musical intelligence. Musical intelligence is seen among people who excel in performing and composing musical pieces, such as singers, composers, music teachers, or anything to do with music. Logical mathematical intelligence is seen among individuals who excel in mathematics and logical thinking, such as bankers, accountants, math teachers, engineers. Now, once you teach students about multiple intelligence theory, once again, they will probably understand their strengths, and that will help them to choose their future profession. Also, when teaching students about identity confusion, assure students that they might end up changing their major later in college. So it's always wise to advise students to take general courses in their freshman year. In that way, they will explore different fields and they might learn what they like and what their true calling is. However, if students do decide to change the major after first semester or second semester, don't be upset about it. That is perfectly normal. For example, I'm a social studies teacher. I teach psychology this semester, but when I graduated from high school, I went to college to study physical education. After the first semester, I realized that physical education is not something that I'm qualified for, or not quite something that I'm interested in. So that's social awareness domain. The second domain in social emotional learning is social awareness. Social awareness is one's ability to understand other individuals. Juniors and seniors, and of course, freshmen and sophomore students, even middle school students can have unrealistic expectations from others and false opinions about society. Like this girl here, she's worried that she doesn't have friends, that her friends have more fun than she does. Now, she's also worried that other people are judging her. Now, what is going on in here? I'll tell you in a moment. Jean Piaget was a Swiss psychologist known for his research and explanation of cognitive development of children. Jean Piaget argued that children tend to be egocentric, meaning that children may not be able to understand emotions and thoughts of others. They may not understand that people see and experience world differently. For example, a child who likes to watch Sesame Street may assume that everyone likes to watch Sesame Street and become upset if other people do not show interest in that particular show. Also, children, like especially toddlers and preschool children, may cover their faces in public and think that they are invisible. Now, according to Jean Piaget, that's how egocentrism affects children. However, according to Jean Piaget, egocentrism reappears again in puberty in the form of imaginary audience and personal fable. So what is imaginary audience and what is personal fable? Imaginary audience, as defined by David Elkin, is a state of mind in which an individual believes that multitudes of people are watching and listening to them. In other words, people feel like they're on the stage and that everyone is looking at them and that everyone is judging them by the way they look, by the way they're dressed, the way their body looks like, and so on. Students may feel uncomfortable being around others, may feel uncomfortable with their bodies and looks, afraid to express their opinions, and may experience withdrawal. So that's the effect of imaginary audience. Personal fable, on the other hand, is the state of mind that affects adolescents by giving them false impression that they are significant and that unfortunate events cannot happen to them. For example, they might think that, hey, everyone will grow old and die, but not me. Or they might say, well, I understand that people do get killed in car accidents, but hey, car accident cannot happen to me. So students may feel overconfident, popular, and unafraid, and therefore may make decisions that will negatively affect them, as for example, getting injured. When working with high school students or adolescent group, keep in mind that they might have unrealistic expectations or false perception of the way other people live. According to the research studies conducted at Harvard Business School and Harvard Medical School, majority of the college freshmen, which is approximately 48%, which is almost 50%, believe that other freshmen had more friends. According to Ashley Williams, social media perpetuates the idea that other people are more social than you. According to Francis Chan, since social activities like eating or studying with others tend to happen in cafes and libraries where they are easily seen, students might overestimate how much their peers are socializing because they don't see them eating and studying alone. So that's another reason why high school students may sometimes feel depressed. You know, you probably have heard high school students complaining and say like, hey, how come that everyone has girlfriend but not me? Or how come that everyone has boyfriend but not me? Why are my friends, always have more fun? All of my friends go on vacations, but I don't. So that's the consequence of this, I would say, psychological delusion that temporarily affects us as humans. And that usually happens when we are in high school or when we are ages 14 to 18 or 19. In order to help adolescent students to become socially aware and to understand their position in society, or how others see them and how they affect others, helping them learn about imaginary audience, personal fable, and egocentrism that affects individuals their age can be of great help. Just like Professor here. He is teaching the lesson, or he's about to teach the lesson on imaginary audience and personal fable. Try to relate these topics to students. Once they understand what imaginary audience is and personal fable is, and how these feelings will end one day and how to deal with them, can be of great help. Relationship skills domain. Relationship skills is one's ability to establish and maintain good and healthy relationships with diverse individuals and groups. It could be argued that good relationship skills are more or equally important as education and work experience when it comes to success. When we teach relationship skills, make sure that we teach students so that they understand that everyone is different and unique. Therefore, they need to understand that people have different interests, desires, and opinions, because we live in the world of diversity, where everyone is different. If we don't learn to accept the differences, then we might end up withdrawing from the society, which is not good. Students need to understand that they have to act and behave as professionals they aspire to be. They need to understand that they have to treat everyone with respect. And when I work with older students, like maybe high school freshmen or high school seniors and college freshmen, I always tell them to act and behave in the same way they want their children to act and behave. When speaking with others, it is important to teach students to refer to their teachers, professors, supervisors, managers, and people they know as Mr., Mrs., or Miss. For example, on this picture, on this slide, you will see a group of students who communicate with their teacher or professor in the same way as they communicate with their peers. Now, this is the common practice that I see these days. But hey, if they would like to be successful in life, they will have to understand that people have different social roles, and that social roles will determine the way we behave and how we speak with that particular social role. So with your professor, and the same can be said with your supervisor or your CEO or your boss, you can't speak with them in the same way as you do with your peers. So you have to know how to acknowledge them properly with Mr., Mrs., Miss, Doctor, or with some other title. We have to learn, and we have to help students learn to compliment people and to make them feel respected and important. If you learn to make people respected and important, then you will be well accepted by the people. You will definitely not end up being one of those people who likes to humiliate everyone or underestimate everyone, because that's something that will make people uncomfortable and will possibly get you in conflict with other groups of people. Also, we have to help students learn to recognize hazardous individuals who offer them something illegal or abuse them. So that's when it comes to relationship skills domain. Responsible decision-making. Responsible decision-making domain is the ability to make constructive and respectful choices about personal behavior and social interactions based. Students need to know to apply critical thinking skills when making important decisions. As teachers, you probably do teach students to apply critical thinking skills in the academic domain that you are teaching. For example, if you are a math teacher, then you will probably give your students assignments in which they have to use critical thinking skills to solve math problems. If you are teaching global studies, then you might give your students assignments in which they have to use critical thinking skills in order to solve problems that relate to social studies or global studies. However, we also have to help students use critical thinking skills in everyday life, which means outside of school. One way that I do this is by teaching my students to successfully pass certain critical thinking tests. My favorite critical thinking test is Cornell test of critical thinking, in which students have to successfully pass the test and successfully answer the questions. Those of you who are not familiar with the Cornell test of critical thinking skills, let me just give you a little background. In this test, the testee is a member of a team of astronauts who are being sent to a newly discovered planet, and their job is to discover or find out what happened with the previous mission that went to this planet 2 years ago. In this test, students will be faced with numerous situations in which they will have to make beneficial decisions or wise decisions. If they succeed, the test will give them a clear explanation why they succeeded, why their choice was the right choice. If they pick wrong option, then the test will give them explanation why this option is wrong and why the other one is right. So those type of tests can be of great help to teach students critical thinking skills and to apply those skills in the real life. Now, another way to teach responsible decision making when working with high school students, and this is actually very popular among psychology teachers, is to teach students not to make any decisions when they feel emotional, like angry, upset, worried, or overjoyed. When you are emotional, well, research studies actually show or suggest that when people are emotional, where their emotions levels increase, automatically their IQ usually decreases. So that's the reason why people are more likely to do something irrational when they are emotional. You know, when people get angry, they might say, "Ooh, I just want to punch this person in the face." You know, I like to tell my students, you know, I'm not telling you not to punch that person, but I'm telling you to wait for 48 hours and then see how you will feel once those emotions go away. Well, of course, after 48 hours, everyone will be like, "Oh, come on, I just said that because I was angry." Also, if you are not sure what to do or what your next step is, and that's how we all feel sometimes, and this is especially true for high school students, make sure that you teach them that if they are not sure about certain decisions, that they should ask themselves, what would their role model do? People who are religious, they might say, "Hey, what would Jesus do in this situation?" Some people might say, "What would Mahatma Gandhi do in this situation?" Some people might say, "What would Martin Luther King do in this situation?" By asking this question, we are applying some type of reverse psychology when it comes to thinking and decision making. And automatically, we will get the answer, what the right option is. Okay. And the last domain in social emotional learning would be self-management domain. Self-management domain is one's ability to control and maintain its actions, emotions, and thoughts. When working with high school students and when teaching social emotional learning to high school students, keep in mind that we have to teach students to understand that they have to learn to set realistic goals. That means that they have to set the goals that they can actually achieve. They have to learn to give priority to more important things. For example, education when they go to college. They should not ignore or education simply because they would like to attend, let's say, a birthday party. You know, we have to teach students to pre-plan the entire week in advance. They have to learn to take notes about tasks that they need to be that need to be accomplished. They need to learn to go to bed before 11 p.m. because they will need a good night's sleep and they have to rest well. And unfortunately, this is not something that many of us do these days. Students, I mean, high school students, especially those who will continue their education at the college level, they all have to understand that education is #1 priority. Everything else can wait. They should not make any mistakes that can affect them for the rest of their life. Tell students about maybe your friends. I'm pretty sure that we all know people or have friends who made some not wise decisions when they went to college. And those decisions ended up hunting them down for the rest of their lives. I mean, I have a friend who got arrested for DWI. You know, his license got suspended, so he had to leave college and postpone education, and then later he went back to school at the age of 30. Problems, these days, high school students, especially adolescents, they might have a difficult time with, many different issues. We all experience problems. So we all have them. That's something that adolescents must understand. If you feel depressed, just take a look at the war-affected areas, such as Syria, for example. That's what I like to tell my students. Hey, just take a look at Afghanistan, Syria, Libya, and other war-affected areas. Now, at least you can tell yourself, hey, there are problems that are way more worse than, let's say, breaking up with your girlfriend or your boyfriend. Now, this is very also important, is to teach high school students not to consume alcohol, tobacco, and drugs, especially drugs without doctor's prescription. Students should understand that there are many things in our world that are not illegal. For example, they can all drink alcohol once they turn 21. They can all smoke once they turn 18. But even though those things are legal, it doesn't mean that they should pursue it. Definitely, I will never tell my high school students that they should drink or that they can drink once they turn 21. Technically, legally, they can, but I will never recommend drinking. As a matter of fact, I will always tell them not to drink alcohol, not to consume alcohol, and not to smoke. And of course, not to use any illegal drugs or drugs without doctor's prescriptions. And most importantly, high school students will have to learn to reflect on their actions. That means that they will have to find time to sit down and think what they could do differently, probably at the end of the week. So these are some basic domains of social emotional learning. Again, keep in mind that we all teach social emotional learning differently. This lesson is primarily focusing on high school students, but if you're an elementary school teacher or a middle school teacher, then you will probably have to apply different techniques and set up different objectives when teaching social emotional learning, because you will be working with different age groups. And keep in mind, every age group has its own emotional need that is specific for that particular age group. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for listening. Again, I would like to ask you to subscribe to my channel for more educational videos that relate to social studies and high school education, as well as college education. Thank you very much, and you have a pleasant day.